Welcome to your sophomore year. It just started. My name is Mr. Couch. I know that I've already talked at you for various reasons already in terms of your choice to take this course, and despite what I have said, you have chosen to take it anyway. So, congratulations. All right. Next year, there will be 5 AP US History sections. That is quite a bit. I will be teaching 4 of those. Okay? Mr. Chacon will be teaching the last of them. So chances are 80% that you're going to have me. All right? But there's a possibility that you may not. If you have Mr. Chacon, you'll be taking APUSH, as we call it, 15-16. Okay? If you're taking it from me, it'll be sometime. All right? I have some lovely APUSH veterans passing out 2 things to you. All right? There's 2 things that should be in your hand before you go today. 1, a nifty handout, how to read a textbook. I know you know how to read, but we need to revisit that. And 2, how you log in to our online site where your textbook is. You are going to be getting some summer assignments to do, and they involve your textbook, plus another book that you need to acquire. Therefore, we are not distributing physical textbooks today, okay? You're going to be able to do everything on this. If you would like a physical textbook, because you're kind of old school, you could find me in room F102 and I can hook you up with one. But when my textbooks came into me this year, and we issued APUSH brand new textbooks this year, completely up to date. They came back last week after they took their AP test, and the binding cracked when I looked to see whose name was inside. So I got the impression that they were not really using the physical book. So what I might be doing next year is making it physical book optional. So if you want a physical book, you can get one, and you can keep it at your house. And if you don't want a physical book, you may not have one. Okay? All right. How many of you have your MacBooks with you right now? Okay? If you can, I asked them to create a U.S. History summer course in Schoology. Okay? If you want to open it up, we'll look and see if you can see it.
They're good?
Okay?
Yeah. They look good. I don't know. Did you run out of it? No, I put it down there. Just pass it down. There's like 80 of them.
I need to grab these.
Go ahead.
You're not efficient. You gotta.
Yeah, you guys failing already?
Listen.
It's like,
I ended up besides Mr.
okay, if you're at home and you go to courses, okay, you may have to choose See All if you have that option, and then maybe Summer 2016, AP US History Summer 2016 may be a choice. Do you have that as a choice? Does anyone see that in your options? Yes. Then you can click on that, okay? If you don't have that open right now, it's no biggie, all right? But you have already been enrolled in our AP summer course. Now, this is a separate site from what we're going to use when you get Mr. Chacon or myself, because in the fall, you will have been sorted, Harry Potter style into your houses, Couch or Chacon. Right now, we don't know who that's going to be. So this is one course to rule them all, as they say. All right? We're all in this together. Okay? But how many pop culture references can I throw in? That was pretty good. Okay. Let me give you a little tour. All right? And before you leave today, I'm going to give you a code that you will use to access your online textbook. So if for some reason you need to depart before that has occurred, you're going to need to come find me to get said code. Okay? Likewise, if you are a freshman who didn't think you needed to come to this meeting, or is somehow so oblivious you missed the announcements and flyers and everything else that you saw, let your friends know They will not be able to access said book or do said assignments without that code, and you need to get that from me. Okay? Thank you very much. All right. So let me show you a couple of things. In here I have a folder, and that folder is called Course Materials. In here is a letter that I mailed to your house. How many of you received a letter at your house? Very good. If you didn't, or you know nothing about mail, that's what it says. All right? This is because last year there always seemed to be confusion. Some people said, what summer assignments? What's going on? I actually snail mailed it. Surprisingly, in this blended learning environment, old school, still most effective. Okay? So you can read that on your own. But basically what this says is to your folks, but it's also to you, is that what you're about to do is different from anything that you have done before. Okay? Different. Now, I'm sure many of you are straight A students. Or maybe we're like A, B students. Or we consider ourselves to be pretty good. I would certainly hope so. All right? This course, as I like to say, is going to separate the pretenders from the contenders. Okay? The Cavs crushed Toronto last night. How many of you enjoyed watching that as much as I did? Okay? Here's the thing, though. Okay? If Toronto beats us tomorrow, by some miracle I know, then we'll feel no better than we would if we had beaten them last night by a single point, right? And they could do that if they make adjustments, like keeping LeBron out of the paint for like 2 seconds, okay? This is what you're going to need to do. Make adjustments. How many of you will willingly admit that you're doing well in your classes, and if you're honest, you really haven't been pushed yet? Not yet. Okay? We're going to push you. We're going to A-push you. Okay? Hopefully, like some of my students say, I'm not going to A-push you off a cliff. If we do, it's not because I'm mean or because I'm scary. I mean, look, I'm a really friendly guy, okay? Just because this is what the course demands. And honestly, I don't think that history in and of itself is hard. I don't think. In the same way, at least for me, that I think science, like advanced science or advanced math, is hard. We're just fast. That's the real problem. Real fast. And usually, the faster you go, the shallower your experience, right? We just kind of skip over stuff. Except the course and the test, which my students just took about 10 days ago, demands depth on all of it. So we need to go fast and deep. That's what's hard, okay? First quarter's got about 9 weeks. Second quarter's got about 9 weeks. First semester's a little shorter than second quarter by a couple of days. Third quarter's about 9 to 10 weeks. So if you're doing the math, that's about 27 weeks. And then fourth quarter, we had about maybe 4 weeks. And then we started the review process, and the test was May 6th. So if you do that math, that's about 31 weeks, right? There's 41 chapters in your collegiate text. So let's think about that for a second, okay? There's 41 chapters that we got to get through in those 31 weeks. And those chapters will take you from pre-Columbus to Obama and deep. That's why we're here right now, okay? 2 reasons. Number 1, doing the summer assignments is your last best chance to decide if this is really for you. Okay? How many of you, in addition to this, are taking AP Seminar? How many of you are also taking maybe AP Bio or some other AP experience? How many of you are taking honors across the board wherever you can? Who took a full load with electives, as much as they could cram in there? Who's got an extracurricular experience, whether it be marching band or theater for 1,000,000 hours or something that keeps you real busy? How many of you still hope to have a life in there somewhere? Well, I hate to disappoint you, okay? But by your own admission, you have chosen a lot, okay? Some folks at this meeting last year realized over the summer, I chose too much, okay? I had one student drop the first week of school because she realized maybe she really did want to have a lunch. Didn't have one. Decided she wanted one. I said, good idea, okay? By doing these summer assignments, I'm giving you an opportunity to see your text, to see the scope and sequence, and get an idea if this is really what you want, or if this is really right for you. On average, our students in this course at Mentor, on average about 2/3 of us every year, on a 5-point scale on the test, will get a 3 or better. That's what you want, at least a 3 is the hope. On average, about 2/3 of us will do that, and 1/3 of us won't. Now, I know most of you then are probably looking to your left or right or saying, man, that stinks to be you, buddy. You might want to think about this. No, I'm talking to you, okay? Only you can decide whether you have taken on too much. Only you can decide whether you can handle the workload that we're going to have, all right? But the workload is not to be mean. It's because it's just stuff that you got to know. And I would advise you that these summer assignments that you're going to begin, which honestly, once you get over the emotional trauma of work in the summer, no! I know. Remember, everything you write, I got to read it all. So, I agree. Okay? But we're doing it because if we read 4 chapters over the summer, do you see how that shortens our window over the rest of the year and makes it? Can you imagine if we had to do all of that without this?
I would die.
Okay. I'd like to introduce you to Hannah and Emily. Hannah and Emily, I said to my sophomores today, I said, you want to talk to the freshmen? You remember being freshmen and going to the meeting? They're like, yeah! You know, as much as they say they hate it, now they're all nostalgic and stuff. And I said, you want to talk to the freshmen and tell them stuff you wish you had thought a year ago? And they said, yes! And so here they are, yeah. Well, several said yes, and you actually showed up.
Yeah.
Right? So what would you like to tell them that you wish? Come on, stand up and come over here. What would you like to tell them that you wish I had said or you had listened to a year ago?
Read the textbook. That's one of them. I mean, I did, but like majority of the time, like don't skim it. Like just read it and read if you have to, because it is time consuming and the mind tab will take time. But it's going to be a lot better to have more detail than to just have a general over, like, and just read the textbook.
Ask questions, because I know when we started writing especially, I wish I asked a crap more questions, because...
They're videotaping this, Emily.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, it's going to go all over Mentor, so thanks for that.
Yeah,
but continue.
No problem. But anyways, but the writing, at first, it sucks. It's terrible. But once you start writing more and more, you get more used to like how it's structured, and especially because we're both in AP seminar too. When it comes to summer work, do not wait to do it, because I know the seminar, what we had to do, I don't know if it changed or not, but the AP seminar homework over the summer was really bad. And so don't wait to do it, because I know I did, and I did not have a good quarter grade the first quarter because I didn't finish it. But anyways. And if you're an all A's person, that'll change. Don't get used to thinking you're going to get A's in every single class, because you're not. I know I'm getting a B. I'm going to get a B this for this class.
And how do you feel about that?
Well, I'm very angry.
It's not a C.
But I can't say anymore because we're being recorded.
Okay.
But other than that, I think if you really are dedicated to the class and you really try to get a good grade and try to learn the content, because that's really all it is. It's the content. that you need to know the content. And if you don't know it, it's going to kick your butt.
Yeah.
So just learn the content, read the text, read what you need to do. The first semester is really bad because you get 2 to 3 chapters a week to do.
We've stretched it out a little bit, and early on when we're doing several, it's ones that we've already read. And partly what kicks their butt is they don't realize the adjustments they need to make until they should have made them like a few weeks ago. So many of us learn the hard way, okay? But a lot of these things you said, do you think I said those things last year?
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I'll tell you that I know I did.
Well,
What would you like to ask actual veterans who just took the AP test
Don't
10
be-
days ago?
don't
Yes,
be-
sir.
What's the average workload in a week? Like, what does it look like?
Okay.
in the average week?
Homework, but I would say that couches, you're not too bad with that. It's just like reading an article majority of the time and having a discussion post, and then yeah, or asking like questions and stuff like that from an article. I mean, that's not too difficult. And then reading a chapter. I mean,
Well-
I genuinely didn't think like those kind of things, like doing a school G assignment or doing like a discussion, was that rigorous where you're gonna spend all night crying. Or
But the
something.
problem is the chapter is hanging over the course of a week, and so you need to pace yourself. And also, if you know you got a tough week coming because of band or whatever your life is, you may need to work strategically, like in advance a little bit, to the degree that you can.
Yeah, with the chapters too, you get definitions, and you can either get lucky and there'll be 12 definitions, or you'll get a chapter with 45 definitions, and those are a blast, I'll tell you. I love
Did they have
those.
value to you by the
Yeah.
time you got to the spring?
I think they did. Because you can review them, Emily.
Why did I bring you here, Stroke?
I'm the designated driver. Okay. I mean, they were helpful with learning the content and learning like. But I think what really helped the most was during class because he connected really everything together. So I think it was kind of a stepping stone into class to what he would do.
But you have to be prepared before those conversations happen, or you won't know what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
you'll be
Yeah.
really lost.
Okay.
Very lost.
Anything else you would like to ask these guys, darling?
How often do you write an essay?
Well, we really didn't start
Until second quarter?
No, we were doing it. In fact, I gave you one the first day. The second day, I gave you something.
Man, I got a bad memory. Like,
I would answer that. I'd say about 3 times a quarter is what I shoot for. Okay?
And there's
3 in-class essays, like a full period writing a timed essay. All right?
because they're timed for the AP test.
Because the AP test has a time factor, but we also might try and do, especially early on, a couple of, like take-home things to try and give you more practice. One thing that they told me at the end of the semester or at the end of the course is they actually wish we had done just a little bit more of some of that stuff, especially like short answer questions and things. So I'm going to try and give you a little bit more just for practice purposes, okay?
Because for
But
the-
in class about 3 times, what Jacone, wouldn't you say, on average?
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. If you're hearing short answer, and you're thinking, oh God, there's a pushback coming from you. You really need to absorb that as a gift to you, because that's going to prepare you for the AP exam. That's what you're supposed to be after, is getting a 5 on the AP exam. Save money for college.
I can also tell you I had 3 sections of kids. This year, I'm going to have 4 sections next year. 99% of them took the exam. The only one who didn't take it just missed the deadline. Whoops. Otherwise, everybody took it. And that's kind of the point. Okay? We always like to say in education we don't like to teach to the test. But in AP, unfortunately, that's kind of what this is. So the goal should be to prepare yourself to take it. So that's the other reason why you should think about these summer assignments in a certain way. You're going to be reading 4 chapters of the text. Now, if you look at the historical time periods that AP talks about in the College Board, which I have linked in Schoology, there are 9, which divide up basically pre-Columbus life, 1491, which goes all the way up to the present. Okay? The first 4 chapters in the text that you're going to be assigned cover the first 2 historical periods. Basically, you're going to be reading about things that are going to take you not just from Columbus, but the age of imperialism all the way up through Jamestown to the edge of the Revolutionary era. All right? Historical period 1, they don't like to ask you a super ton about, but they could. But the colonial era, they do. Which means what you're going to be reading about, I will come back to it in the fall, but in a review way, because I'll assume that you've already hit it. okay? You will possibly be asked about this summer stuff in May of 2017. For sure you will. So your choice, you can work as hard as you're able throughout the year and be better prepared later. Or you can be in kind of get her done mode and then be good mode in April of next year, which I don't recommend because you can't go backwards into your DeLorean and smack your August self and say, get serious now, okay? There is no Wayback Machine, all right? So it's better to do it from the start, okay? All right, let me show you what else I have, then I'll tell you what you're going to be doing. Because we're going to take a little bit of time to make sure before you physically walk away to make sure that you are hooked up to the stuff that you need. Being hooked up to Schoology is step one. We're all in Schoology, so that's good. So anyone who tried to open it up and didn't see their Schoology course page in there somewhere? Okay. Check with me before you're dismissed, and let's make sure that if you're not on our roster, we'll make sure you're added. There's also a course access code I can give you, and we can get you in there. But we're sure we're in the course. It's on your schedule. We're sure?
Yeah.
But you signed up to take AP, you're sure?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll take care of you in a second. All right. Historical thinking skills. This is from the College Board. Usually when we get like a course outline on the first day of a class, we kind of skip over all that stuff. I wouldn't. I'd take a look at this a little bit because as I'm going to tell you multiple times over the course of the year, what is history, ladies?
An argument.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, history is an argument. It is not this course where we memorize all this stuff we got to know and then you spit it back. You are going to be asked to render your conclusions and opinions on stuff. So not just when did the Vietnam War happen, what was the lesson? Not just when did Lincoln die, but why didn't he free the slaves faster? And not just when did the Civil War happen, but what was it about? How many of you will tell me right now that you think the Civil War was, more than anything else, was about slavery? How many think it was about more than just that? How many of you have no clue how you would answer that question? Is that interesting how few of them think it's all about slavery? I'll get to you guys later. All right, so some of the skills that are in the essays you're going to write involve these things. Historical causes. What caused stuff? Long-term, short-term. 2, they love this. Patterns of change over time. How did the status of women change before and after the Revolution? How did the status of African Americans change in the early 1800s and so on? 3, periodization. They said that there are 9 historical time periods. Why? What's the reason for these years? There must be one. During the course of the class, you're going to tell us. 4, comparison, comparing things. How are they similar, different? 5, this is what's one that we struggle with. It's called contextualization, which means if I give you a document, like the Declaration of Independence, we've all heard of it, seen it, maybe even read it. What was going on around that time period that caused that to be written the way it was? That's context. Historical argumentation, making an argument and defending it. We love to argue in APUSH. In fact, if you don't join us in the arguing, you're missing a key component of the course. Using relevant historical evidence to make those arguments, interpreting evidence, and synthesis, which means how is the Civil War era similar to the Revolutionary era? How is it different? Like comparing time periods. So we not only need to know time periods, we need to be able to compare across time. Okay? Those are the things you're going to be asked to look at. All right, you can review those on your own. And I've also linked in there for your reading pleasure, just over the course of time, all of what we call our thematic learning objectives. Basically, this is all of the course in a nutshell according to the College Board. Okay, but we will come back to that in the fall. All right, I've also added on here a syllabus for all next year. Mr. Chacon and I worked on it. You can see what chapters we'll be covering when and how fast we'll be going. I invite you to look at that and get an idea of the topics that we will cover how and when. Okay? All right. But I want to just re-emphasize to you the importance as I get into the next part, which is the part that we're all worked up about. What stuff do I got to do between now and August, okay? I want to reemphasize, approach the things you have to do the right way. So I've handed out to you a handout, how to read a textbook. I know you know how to read a textbook. I know you know how to read. But let's be honest, I'm sure in many of your classes you're given something to read and you sort of read it. Maybe if you're smart and sharp, you can pay attention in class and figure out, I didn't even really have to read it. How many of you will admit frequently that you get a textbook reading or an assignment to do and you survive quite well just kind of hunting and pecking it? And okay? Not recommended. Because going as fast as we are, when you come to see me or Mr. Chacon, we're going to be hitting you in class with the big picture, okay? Which means we'll be glossing over a lot. We have to. I'm a big talker. I talk fast. I cannot talk fast enough to spit out 1491 to 2016 in 8 months. Cannot do it. I mean, if you come to class and you're like, Mr. Couch, I'm going to sip from the font of your wisdom. I'm going to take notes. Yes! Like, that's awesome. It will be completely inadequate, okay? I'm going to be asking you about stuff that I assume you have read. All right? So I would read. And I would review the way you read. All right? You're going to be making adjustments as the year goes on. I'll give you an example. I had a student, fall semester, came in, said, I'm going to outline all the chapters. I'm going to make flashcards, all the chapters. I'm going to do all this stuff, had a plan, and by October was drowning and realized that is not going to work for me and had to change it up. All right? You're going to have to change it up. So whatever you think you're going to do between now and August, you'll probably change it again, and maybe a third time. So rethink the way you think and how you want to approach things. Okay? All right. I also put in here for your viewing pleasure, mostly for the masochists, all kinds of websites about history that might be useful to you, especially come review time. Peruse them at your leisure, all right? But during the summer, the folder that matters is this assignments folder, okay? And in here, we have included for you a summary of your reading assignments, and if you opened your mail, you know you have this at home in hard copy form, or you've seen this, correct? All right, so what do you got to do? The answer is, until June 24th, or shortly thereabouts, nothing. Okay, your first summer assignment isn't due till June 24th. But once you turn one in, and they'll all be online, you're going to do 8. 1 a week, each Friday, up until the Friday before we come back. Okay? 8. 4 chapters of your textbook, which is called the American Pageant, which I'll give you the code for the online version in a moment. And 4 chapters of another book that you got to get. It is called Lies My Teacher Told Me. Lies My Teacher Told Me. It is a book about how crummy textbooks are, including yours. So the first thing you're going to do for June 24th is you're not going to read a chapter in your text. You're going to read a chapter by this guy. He's a cranky, old, bald, white-bearded, old hippie Santa-looking dude who, when he talks about history textbooks, uses words like ridiculous and stupid. And he's going to talk about your book as well. You're going to read from this old cranky dude, and you're going to respond to it in a Schoology discussion thread. And then the second week, you're going to read from that stupid book and see if you can see the things that he is talking about. All right? So as much as the textbook is a resource for us, what we're going to learn is your textbook is biased. Your textbook in some cases is flat out false. Your textbook poses challenges that we're going to have to get past. In other words, we're going to question all of our sources. Now, these sophomores finished, lies my teacher told me, finally, just last week, and many of them are eager to sell their beloved dog-eared copies to poor freshmen
Can I say one thing?
who would like to get one for cheap. I don't know, am I going to like it?
Yeah, it's not about the book.
Okay.
Don't get an electronic version. Get the actual books. I did, and it was terrible because you had to go find stuff and you had to flip through everything. So if you ever had that idea,
You can get it at Amazon, you can get it at Barnes & Noble, or you can get it from a trusted sophomore who just took this class, because there's a ton of them out there. Okay? All right. So, assignments 1, 3, 5, and 7 will be the first 4 chapters in Lies, and assignments 2, 4, 6, and 8 will be the first 4 chapters in Pageant. Okay? That's it. The chapters in Lies will be about the history being covered in the chapters in Pageant. I think early on, Mr. Lowen, who is the author of Lies, is going to hit you with some ideas that you're going to find kind of surprising when you read about the way you've been taught history up until this point. And that's why I'm giving it to you. Because his book is an example of what Mr. Chacon and I need to teach you next year, which is how to think like a historian. How to think historically. Not how to know history and repeat it and spit it back, but how to do those historical thinking skills and evaluate your sources and what you're being told, okay? And I'll give you an example. I mean, I did a survey in here about just a few minutes ago. What do you think was the main cause of the Civil War? And most of you didn't think it was slavery. All right, I'll tell you right now, Lowen's going to tell you that's because you've been brainwashed. And you're all wrong. Or maybe he's wrong. I don't know. That'll be one of the things that we will debate in class, and debate hotly. And if you doubt that people still debate the Civil War hotly, just ask around in other parts of the country, and they'll give you an answer. All right? The Confederate flag debate last year blew up while we were doing this course, and we had a bonus discussion thread about it, just for kicks. Don't be surprised if some of that stuff gets in there, okay? Don't be surprised either if Mr. Chacon or I reply to some of your threads, and we get into it a little bit. That's fun, okay? We are going to challenge each other's ideas. We're not going to challenge each other, but we are going to challenge each other's ideas, okay? It should be a lively course, all right? So, when you do summer discussion thread number 1, okay? And I think the threads are visible on Schoology right now. The pageant assignments will become visible later in the summer, okay? So no, don't work all ahead. Doing it all in the next week and throwing in a corner is not the point of the assignment, okay? If you can. When you do these threads, look at this as an opportunity to show Mr. Chacon and myself, and show everybody else what kind of student you are, what you have to offer, okay? And what we'll find is frequently when we come in August, a lot of us are already saying, oh, so you're so-and-so, well. And then it's much more fun, okay? All right. Does anyone have a question as to where you would acquire a copy of Lies My Teacher Told Me? No problem with that? Get on it, okay? So now the last thing we need to, yes? Question? Yes, sir.
Where was it again? The Lies My Teacher Told Me?
Barnes & Noble's got a ton. You could probably order them online through Amazon or any place, or ask any sophomores that are on their way out of APUSH before the year's out, okay? All right. Mr. Chacon, I'm going to give them their codes in a minute, and then we're going to go through that process. Do I need to add anything?
No, you're doing great.
Okay. So pageants. I have given you this, okay? These are your instructions for how to get into pageant. And what we're going to do now, and once we get into this process, then you probably won't need to share that because we'll just be milling about, okay? But what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you to how you get into the online textbook. The first thing you're going to need to do is go to this, which is described here under registration where it says connect to this, okay? You can do it now. If you don't have your MacBook, you don't have to do it now. You can do it later. All right, but this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to go to this site, and it's going to look like that, okay? And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to need to create a new account, I think is what we're going to need to do. And you're going to do that by using this area on the left, not this area on the right, because you're not a returning student, you're a new student. This is going to get you into what Hannah referred to as the MindTap, which is the online activity site that goes with our textbook. And you'll find the entire textbook is available there as well, okay? You'll type in your email there, you'll click Create New Account, and then you'll be prompted. Now, I crossed out all this other stuff because this says, here's how you pay for your book. You do not have to pay for anything. That's what the school did, okay? Some poor people used a credit card and bought a $100 book last summer. No! So I crossed that out, okay? You get to log in for free, our gift to you, with the starred area down here, this course code. And when you log in with that course code, it will then take you to our summer site. And it may or may not look like the one that I will show you, because I get the teacher version, so I'm not sure if it looks exactly the same, okay? But this is what I see when I get into the MindTap. And this is my teacher desktop version. I got a grade book in here, I make assignments in here, and so on, okay? But on the right-hand side of this summer course page, you click on the blue book, and there you see the American Pageant. That's what the cover of our latest edition looks like. You've got chapters up here, and then you scroll down. If you look at this for just a second, okay, away from what you're doing, okay, when you open our online textbook, the first chapters are what they call a review. You want to skip over those. That's what we're going to be dealing with in April and May of next year. You want to scroll down to these chapters, okay? The second list of chapters that begins with chapter 1 and goes all the way to chapter 41, which my current students just finished, okay? Chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the ones you're going to be reading over the summer, and when you click on one, then the book should open for you in a new tab, okay? But you can play with that later. There's also flashcards in here. You don't ever have to make flashcards ever again. They've already made them for you. And other resource materials that you can play with and use. But this is how you get in. How many of you have already successfully gotten into that page somewhere? Yes?
It's saying that the code is invalid. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
Show me. Let's see. Hang on, Pete, let me take a look at this here. Did you enter the email already? Hang on, I may have given you the wrong instructions. Just a minute.
You're dumb.
A minute, please. Where at?
Like on the website, you register to sign an agreement. So basically, after that,
Hang on, I directed you to the wrong thing. Just a second. Okay, so if we go back to, all right, so we're in here. Where did you guys go?
Log back to the homepage, log back into the login right there.
You entered this first,
Yeah, and it should say you're already enrolled.
okay, and then you went back in here,
Yeah.
and you typed in your email again,
Yep.
and you put in here,
Yep.
put in here what?
Your password.
This course code.
No, the one you signed up with.
This thing right here?
You have to make your own.
No, like when you make an account, you register a email or password.
Oh, okay, all right. So once you've done this, hang on, this is first, right? You were prompted to create a password, right?
Yep.
And then it says you're enrolled, you go back here and stick it in there.
Yeah.
Let's try that. Okay? All right. Okay, once you get to the screen where you've done that part, and then you're going to get to a screen where on the left it says, hang on the left it says, would you go back a screen there, Sam? Or were you there? Okay, so you've got, it says My Home, right? And you've got Pageant here, APUS History Summer Course there, okay? Do you know where we are? Yeah. If not, ask your neighbor. Then what you're going to want to do is we're going to choose Open. And it says, okay, you have this for 19 days, but you're going to be like, no, I've got an access code, and that's where we should put it. What?
It's still invalid.
Mark? All right, here's what we're going to do, okay? If you go to the, right now our prevailing theory is that because they've given us temporary access, maybe we input our code later. So we're just going to go with the temporary access for now, okay? And then I am going to make sure I've got our instructions straight with our textbook people. And then what I can do is I can post directions on how to make sure we're permanently signed up to this. I'll just stick it right on our Schoology page. Okay? So we're good for at least a little while. So when you go to take me to my course, they give you a accept terms and conditions thing, right? And you'll want to scroll down to the bottom of that. You'll click accept. And then you're going to get to this, which is what we want, okay? And then you'll click enter, and you'll get to this. And there's some little tutorials on there, and that does indeed look, a lot like what I want you to see. Okay? So let's go with our temporary access for right now. And then in the interim, I will get, actually, you know what I think we need then? That's probably when we input these student access codes.
Yeah, because they don't even need in there for the next 19
That's right. I don't know why they had us loaded already. I mean, they don't even know who we are. The board office must have done that for us. Okay. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I think the code that we'll need when that expires then is your student access code. That's the part. I think the board office actually helped us out and got me set up with this already, unbeknownst to me. So, are you all in on the temporary? Who is a little lost at the moment? Those handful of lost people, come down when we break up in a second, I'll help you. But here's what you're going to need. In 19 days, if I'm not mistaken, you're going to need the code that I have for you here. There's one per student. They're all different. Okay? I've got Abbott to Bolts listed on the wall over there. I have on that back wall Boros to Gomez. Back here, Gorka to May, last names. Take to the middle table over here, McCarthy and Potter. And I've got Walton and Zelina over here, and somewhere I have Perdina and Thompson too. So I have put your last name up there twice, just so you're not all crowded around one piece of paper. Choose either one of the two, depending on where your name is. I've got my own copy up here. If you don't see it, you can just come down here. And for those of us who didn't see ours, don't go anywhere yet. Because once we start doing this, we'll never be together again, okay? Y'all listening?
Yes.
What I'd like you to do is get that code by your name and write it down clearly, like you know the difference between I's and ones and O's and things. And then initial by your code so I know that you got it. Everybody look at me. Do not wander away until you're sure you know how to access the things that you need. When you are sure and you have your code, you may go. Okay? 323, as promised. Come see me with questions. I look forward to seeing what you can do. Okay?